It's the Brad and John Show.
It is the Brad and John Show. Today's date is November 20th. It's KMOX Day, 11/20 Day, and it is the 2-year anniversary of the Brad and John Show. So technically today when I put the shows up, this is season 3 starting today then, John, right? Right, season 3?
Yeah, I think so. We don't refer to it that way, but yeah, if you were one of those type people, we would call it season 3.
And what didn't we have in season 1? We didn't have Brad's top 3, but
I know, Brad. It's amazing, and it kind of goes, it's time for Brad's top 3.
It's time for Brad's top 3.
Man, you nailed it that time, John. You were right on pitch. Ladies, one more time.
It's time for Brad's top
And what do we start off with?
It's number 3.
John, something I've never done before. Brad's top 3. Yada, 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 yada. Now for number 2.
It's time for Brad's number 2. It's time for Brad's number 2.
John, you're wondering why I did that. Because of the fact that I've got a banger of a number 1, which I need some extended time for, because I am going to tell a couple of stories that I've never told before that I know you will find very interesting. Okay, but
I can't wait. Okay, what's number 2?
Number 2 is an article which I found yesterday on the KSDK Channel 5 website. And under local news, it says, once in a lifetime, this is the headline, once in a lifetime, Missouri tourist destinations back from the depths for 4th year in a row, thanks to chronically low Mississippi River. And then the subheadline says, the nation's rivers continue to dry out as the burning of fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas worsens climate change. John, do you think that's right for Channel 5 to put that in there?
Yeah, absolutely. It's incredibly neutral. It's a total fact and not political bias. And what landmark popped up? Is it somewhere where 2 old conchers had a duel back in the day, or what?
Here's the story. Countless tourists flocked to southern Missouri in 2022 for what they thought was going to be once-in-a-lifetime event. The fabled Tower Rock Walkway has instead defied expectation and emerged from the Mississippi River's depths every year since, triggering worries among water experts.
No. Now, you don't want to make worries among water experts.
The aptly named Towering Rock Formation usually sits surrounded by water and isolated in the Mississippi River around 100 miles south of St. Louis. But when river levels get low enough, a rock walkway emerges from the river's depths. Mississippi River water levels at Chester, Illinois, dipped below 1.5 feet on Tuesday, according to the U.S. Geological Survey's monitoring site. That means people can walk across the river to see Tower Rock up close, but the walkway may be slippery on newly emerged rocks, so tread carefully.
Yeah, be careful. Now, Brad, let me interrupt. Who actually wrote the story? KSDK obviously didn't write the story. But where's the story from?
You're good at that, but yet I don't see any attribution.
Okay, do I need to invest 10 seconds and figure it out?
Okay.
I'll Google it.
I'm looking at it. It says the author is Hunter Bassler, but it doesn't say that he's from any other.
Did you Google Hunter Bassler? Did you highlight it, right click it, and say search for Hunter Bassler?
No, because that's your job, John.
Okay, there you go. Okay, and so here's the story, which means it says he's a digital journalist at 5 on Your Side in St. Louis.
Yes.
Which probably means that either he wrote it or he didn't write it. He's the poor sap that has to pull a story from a wire and then post it. And much like Brad Hildebrand, Brad, if you go to bjshow.co/blog, we have really thorough updates that encapsulate and recap every show. Your name is on there. And there's so much detail and everything is written correctly and not written like an AI moron that you could tell Brad didn't write it. You can tell John wrote it. But your byline is on there. You get what I'm saying? So maybe Hunter Bassler pulled this from the AP or something.
John, the interesting thing about this is that, and here's Turnabout's fair play. I think it was maybe 8 or 9 years ago when, right around this time of the year, the Crap Transmitter site, which I've owned since 1997, the Crap Transmitter site, which was subject to extreme damage in the 93 and 95 flood. Matter of fact, right behind us, there's a levee and there's a big lake on the Crap Transmitter site, which was caused by the levee failure of the flood of 1973. And going back, like I said, 8, 9, 10 years ago, when we had this time of the year, huge floods, which almost topped the Dutso bottom levee district down there. why didn't they put into the report back then, because of climate change, the floods are going to top the levee in Washington, Missouri? Get what I'm saying, John?
Yeah, I think that at that point, people were focused maybe on acid rain. Or CFCs or something like that, Brad.
What I'm saying
Brad,
is...
that's a fantastic story. It looks like Mr. Bassler might have actually written this piece. And I bet if we reached out to him, I bet he would say, let's save enough time for Brad's number one because we want to hear it.
Okay, here we go. Brad's number one.
And now, big finish, Brad's number one.
Okay, the amazing thing on this is the story I'm going to read you is so incredibly funny. And the interesting part of this is that I have more to this story in something that I've never discussed in the show before. The story is about Judge Matthew Thornhill in St. Charles County. You familiar with Judge Matthew Thornhill?
Yeah, now you mean Elvis, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you mean Judge Elvis. Okay, I bet you have some stories. So for folks who don't know, why don't you explain what happened this week, Brad?
A St. Charles County judge has agreed to resign within 2 years as punishment for wearing an Elvis wig on the bench, playing Elvis music during swearing in of litigants, and discussing his political campaign in the courtroom, among other misconduct. 11th Circuit Court Judge Matthew E.P. Thornhill agreed to a unanimous disciplinary recommendation, which must still be approved by the Missouri Supreme Court, that he be suspended for 6 months without pay, after which he may return as judge for 18 months, but then he must resign. The Commission of Retirement, Removal, and Discipline of Judges made the recommendation based on 3 accounts of accusations that Thornhill failed to maintain decorum, dignity, and order in the courtroom, engaged in political activity while conducting court business, and intervened in a child adoption case. Now, the interesting part of this story is, if you go to the pictures, this is on the Channel 5 website, okay? If you go to, and John's probably been there many, many, many times, if you go to CaseNet, and when you see there are pleadings, and also there are, if you put evidence, pictures, and things like that on CaseNet, there's a watermark that appears that essentially it says not an official court document. Okay. So within the CaseNet file, and I looked this up, and sure enough, they're there, are 2 pictures that were in this case of one, Matthew Thornhill being on the bench wearing an Elvis wig, and then another one where he's apparently in the offices of St. Charles County Courthouse, and he's like doing an Elvis routine, and this is official court documents. This is official evidence, which is in the what do you call it? The public domain?
Essentially the case file. Yeah, I have the pictures up on my phone. I'm looking at them now. They have the watermark that says essentially you got this from a case file.
Right. So in other words, that came off of, they marked that so you can't essentially refile a document that was on CaseNet.
Right,
okay.
I see. And so, Brad, now as a guy that has a lot of experience in St. Charles County courts, as you do, what is your story about Matt Thornhill?
John, I'm going to tell you a story that you're not going to believe. Okay, first off, do you know the controversy that when Matthew Thornhill was appointed, actually he ran and was elected judge. Do you know the backstory before he was even a judge?
I don't know, no.
He was a prosecutor. He was assistant prosecutor for, what was the guy? Jack Bannis? Was that the guy way back when?
Yeah, there was a guy, Jack Bannis, that was the county prosecutor, right?
Yes, okay. Matthew Thornhill, it was well known that Matthew Thornhill was a collector of baseball memorabilia. And if you went into his office as a county prosecutor, he had several baseballs in his office, several of which were signed by the actual, by famous players. So once upon a time, there was a case in front of him, and the 2 attorneys who were working the case, it was a woman, and what the interesting story about it was a woman who was being charged with forgery, okay? And the 2 attorneys met with the prosecutor, at this time Matthew Thornhill, and they noticed all these baseballs, and they said to Matthew, hey, our client can get you a signed baseball. How would you like to have a signed baseball from Terry Bradshaw? Now think about that for a minute. What's wrong with that?
That would be like having Ozzie Smith sign a football.
Yes, exactly. Terry Bradshaw
I'm tracking with you.
Okay, so depending upon whose story you listen to, Either Matthew Thornhill says, nope, I don't want that baseball, or he said, yep, I'll take that baseball. However it happened, the baseball appeared in Matthew Thornhill's office, okay? And word got around.
Signed by Terry Bradshaw.
Signed by Terry Bradshaw.
Okay, all right.
Word got around that he had taken this baseball, and which was improper because of the fact he was dealing with the plaintiff's attorneys. They were, the state was coming.
Yeah, which would show bias. And
which would show
color
bias.
His decision.
Okay,
we got you.
So essentially, around the same time he was running for election to Associate Circuit Court in St. Charles County, and he won. Okay, so when he became, and essentially what happened, and this is actually sort of a sad story, the two attorneys were actually disbarred over this, and because of the fact that they tried to essentially bribe a prosecutor. And the funny part of it was, it turned out the baseball signed by Terry Bradshaw was, guess what, John?
It was fake.
It was a forgery because this woman.
Forgery?
Yes.
Wow. What do you know?
This woman was being tried for forgery. Okay, so he becomes a Associate Circuit Court judge. Enter Brad Hildebrand. I don't know how long ago this was. I should look it up. 15, 16, 17 years ago, I had a young guy come to me who wanted to do sports play-by-play. And I told him, I said, I don't have any positions right now. And he says, I want to do something with the radio station. I said, well, I need salespeople. I said, but you know what? Have you have any experience selling? No. He says, I'm not going to give you, I told him, I said, I can't give you a draw. I said, I'll give you straight commission. So he says, okay, fine. So he quote unquote starts selling for me, and he sells absolutely, positively nothing. A bizarre situation happened where his mother had remarried, and his mother was not the richest person. This is the guy who was an employee of mine. And his mother was driving down the Lake of the Ozarks with her new husband. This guy was working for me, supposedly working for me, who was his new stepfather. And,
okay, I got you.
And he was very rich. So as they're driving down the Lake of the Ozarks, a fight broke out, and his mother, who was driving, started pummeling her new husband, who was in the shotgun seat, the passenger seat. And as they're driving down Highway 54 to go to the Lake of the Ozarks, and this was corroborated by witnesses, the car starts swerving because punches were being delivered back and forth, and there's a fight going on in the front seat. Long story made short, this kid's mother lost control of the car. The car ran out of control, flipped over. Her new husband was ejected. No, he was ejected, but he lived, and she was killed instantly. So,
no, Brad.
And he lasted a couple of weeks, okay, and then he died. So they both died. So this quote-unquote guy who was working for me, who never sold anything, all of a sudden decides that he's going to sue his dead mother for the death of his stepfather. You get where I'm going with this?
Yeah, okay, I see.
He's trying to get some money out of the deal because he's essentially suing his mother because she killed his stepfather. So he's trying to get money from the stepfather's estate, okay? Complicated story. So the guy's not doing anything for me. He's not selling anything. And I thought to myself, okay. And I had to talk with him. I go, look, this isn't working. You're not selling anything. I don't even think you're doing anything for me. And matter of fact, he had a full-time job. I know he had another job. So he disappears. So about 2 months later, I get served by the sheriff of St. Charles County. He's suing me because I did not pay him commission on a contract that he gave me. So I go to court a couple.
Oh my God! And I'm guessing, was this small claims court? Because it couldn't be much money.
No. This was Associate Circuit Court. This is the big.
Wow. Okay.
This is not the big. The big times is Circuit Court. This is Associate Circuit. If you don't pay your credit card bill, you get stuck in Associate Circuit Court. I think he was suing me for like $10,000 or something like that. Okay. So I go to court for the first two times. First time was in November. Second time was in December. Right before Christmas, I can't even remember the judge's name. The judge says, hey, you know what? I'm moving up to Circuit Court. He says, this is my last day in Associate Circuit Court. I don't know who your new judge is going to be, but he will be here for the January dockets. In other words, this is December docket. We're going to the January docket, new judge. So I show up for the January docket and representing myself, and in strolls Matthew Thornhill, his first day in court. And keep in mind...
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Keep in mind, he's wearing a bow tie. Now, John, I don't know if you've ever been to like any of these courts. When they call the docket, it's like, the judge is like, Joe Smith. And then typically, if Joe Smith says, here, Your Honor, or if there's not there, the attorneys go, call for default because, they didn't show up. And then the judge would say, second call, very methodical. It's going bang, bang, bang. It's like that. It's like they're ripping through the docket. So Matthew Thornhill comes out, sits down, looks around, and he says, hey, good morning, everybody. Hey, how you doing? Everything going okay this morning? I swear to God, this is a true story. Oh, hey, this is my first day, so bear with me because I've never done this before. So let's go ahead and call the docket. So he starts reading off names, and nobody answers. And let's say it's Bill Jones. Bill, is Bill here? Anybody seen Bill? Is Bill out in the hall? Hey, Bill, is Bill? So this is like, so he's doing this, and people are going like, after a while, because some of these people have been to court before, like I have, and I'm thinking to myself...
Yeah, and they know, hey, let's hurry it up.
Yes, and I'm thinking to myself, is this like, are we being punked? Are there is like candid camera, or is there like some YouTuber that's doing this? So this goes on, and people start laughing, because he's going like, whoa, hey, Sally Smith? Sally, I know you got to be here. Sally, are you underneath the chair there or something? Are you hiding from me? So this goes on, and he gets through the whole docket, and typically what happens is then they go for second call, okay? For second call, which means the court adjourns, and typically all the attorneys queue up in front of the judge and plead their case in front of the judge, but everybody else goes out into the hall. So we all go out into the hall, and the bailiff comes out, and he whistles with like two-finger whistle, like, shrieking whistle, and he yells, hey, listen to me. This is his first day as a judge, and I don't know about you, but I don't think your first day of your job was perfect, so you had better give him respect, or I'm going to haul you out in the hall and have a talking to you when we go back into court. Do you hear me? Everybody goes, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. So we go, oh, this is getting interesting. So we go back in, okay? And it just gets weirder from there. Okay, so this case that I represented myself went for 3 years. 3 years, John.
And how long ago was this, Brad? So when did Thornhill start?
I want to say...
If you had to guess.
I want to say this was probably maybe 2000 and... Maybe 2000, maybe it's been 20 years. Maybe it might have been like 2007, 2008 or something like that. So it's coming up in 20 years.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so this case goes on for 3 years. And on 3 separate occasions, the attorney, and the crazy thing about it is I didn't make this point clear, the attorney that is suing me is also the attorney that's handling the wrongful death of this kid's stepfather. And he's from Columbia, Missouri. He's a Columbia attorney. So he's driving up every single day when we got court. And on 3 separate occasions, he doesn't show up in court. And me, being the wannabe attorney, what all the other attorneys do when I go up to the judge and I say, Your Honor, I'd like to have this case dismissed, failure to prosecute. And he would say to me, oh, well, I don't know. He might be stuck in traffic. And I would say to him, Your Honor, if I was stuck in traffic, would you give me the benefit of the doubt? Well, no, because you're not an attorney. So 3 separate times, the attorney does not show up, and I go for essentially failure to prosecute. He takes the plea and essentially closes the case, but then the attorney from Columbia files to have the motion set aside. And every time I go talk to Judge Thornhill, I probably spent 20, 30 hours over the time in court with this. It was like a total waste of my time, but it got to be fun. So I'd go in front of judge and I go, Your Honor, he showed, like the 3rd time, I said 3 times he hasn't showed up. 3 times I've come to you and asked for a motion to dismiss, failure to prosecute, and 3 times you have let this back in. I said, I can't believe you're doing this. And he says, well, if he doesn't show again, he'll file a motion to set aside. And I said to him, and don't grant it. Once or twice is okay, but 3 times not okay. So we go back and forth. So this goes on for 3 years. So finally, we have a bench trial, okay? Turns into a bench trial. I'm in court with Matthew Thornhill, okay? And I didn't know what was going on with this case. This guy fabricates a story. And it was funny because a couple weeks before the trial, when I saw his attorney file these in the court documents, I see that he filed a contract that this kid had supposedly signed for a beauty college in Warrenton. And I'm going to myself, what the hell is this? And it's a contract that he sold advertising.
And it was for $350, right, Brad?
No. It was for like $10,000.
The commission was supposed. I have the case up in front of me.
Oh, do you have it there in front of you? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the case was that he supposedly sold this advertising, and the funny part of it was that the advertising that he sold was to a lady who I knew who had been on our station before. And the funny part of this was the lady had a jingle that she had recorded, and she spent a lot of money for the jingle, and she would never do ads on the radio station without the jingle. So I'm going like, I can't believe it. It turns out the person that signed the contract was, guess what, John?
It was a forgery, or they were a friend of this guy.
It was his sister who worked at the beauty salon who had.
So that's a little self-dealing. Justin doing a little self-dealing there. And the court case says that he wanted he said he was entitled. He claimed he was entitled to $350 from you.
Right. So
which getting $350 from Brad is like sucking a golf ball through a hose.
So the funny part of this was, as I'm being examined by his attorney, I'm on the stand. His attorney is examining me. And I said to him, this is totally bogus because of the fact that the lady who owns whatever beauty college would never do any advertising without her jingle. And it was a special jingle that was a custom donut. And Matthew Thornhill stops the attorney and said, okay, explain to me what
And explain what that is, because I don't know what that is either.
Explain to me what a donut is. A donut is what they call a sing in and a sing out. Like, let's say you got a 60-second commercial. John Combest is the best guy in town. And then there's 50 seconds worth of music. Da-dum-da-dum-da-dum-da-dum. And the announcer comes in. That's right. John Combest is the best guy in town. He's the best guy. He's the world's best guy.
And then the middle has the part. Okay, and
right.
Then you have an outro. Okay, we got it. Go ahead.
That's the donut hole. You fill the donut hole with a voiceover. And then they say, John Combest is the best guy in town. So the judge, Matthew looks at me and he says something to the effect, when I woke up this morning, I didn't think I would be hearing someone talking about donuts with holes in them on the radio.
What a wacky guy, right? And he wasn't wearing an Elvis wig at the time.
No, so
he was just in his normal costume.
This case went on for like 3 hours, and I'm going like, this is getting ridiculous.
That's a lot. And the records show, Brad, that it came to St. Charles County from Lincoln County in September of 2006. And you're right, it lasted a little bit less than a year. And the final judgment was entered in August of 2007. So it lasted for less than a year.
No. It was longer than that, because the crazy thing about it was originally it was filed in Franklin County because it's interesting. You go back and look at all the different records. It bounced around. He originally filed it in Franklin County, and I represented myself in Franklin County, and I went in front of the judge in Franklin County and said, Your Honor, this has nothing to do, because Justin lived in St. Charles County. He was working for me in St. Charles County. He never set foot in the station in Franklin County. I said that to the judge, and the judge granted my change of venue to St. Charles County. So the case had bounced around for a while with that as well, too. So long story made short, I won. I beat an attorney, and it was Matthew Thornhill. And the bizarre part of it was, then if you go back and you search this, Matthew Thornhill's been in the news also because he got into trouble a couple other times when he would have empty courtrooms, and he knew which courtrooms were not empty. Judge Matthew Thornhill is a very religious person. He had prayer service in the courtrooms that were not being used. And he got in trouble over that because people complained. He was going like, okay, hold on a minute now. We have a judge who's using empty courtrooms to have prayer services where people come up and they do Bible study and pray and stuff like that. And he said, well, it's my right as a Christian, blah, 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 blah. And he got sort of reprimanded by, I guess, the chief judge in St. Charles County. So essentially what they did was they decided that he did have a right to meet with these people on county property, but they gave him like a conference room in the executive office building down the street or something like that. So this is Matthew Thornhill. Now, if I'm not mistaken, he was he started out as associate circuit, and then he became a circuit court, but then he lost the election, and I think he sat out for 2 or 3 years, and then he got reelected again. So that's Matthew Thornhill. And the crazy thing about it was, what's interesting about it was, when I would go up in front of him, he was the nicest guy to me, and he'd sort of kid around with me. And the interesting thing was, I learned my lesson being in court. I always wore my three-piece suit. And at one point in time, he said to me, I swear to God, he said to me, he says, "You dress better than some of the other attorneys." I'm thinking to myself.
Yeah, I bet you do, Brad. And especially with a three-piece. Nobody wears a three-piece suit anymore.
Well, and I was in my $99 men's warehouse suit. And I'm thinking to myself, man, if I'm dressing better than some of the other attorneys, things got to be pretty bad. Okay, that's my Matthew Thornhill story. Was it worth all this time, John?
It was, Brad. And I can't believe that's a story that you hadn't told before. That's a really good story, Brad.
But the interesting part, did you read, and the crazy part of it was, the case just fell apart because he claimed he had all this evidence, and he kept saying, well, I worked all these hours for Mr. Hildebrand. I worked all these hours. And the judge said to him, this is Matthew Thornhill, says to him, he says, you're very meticulous at having, he had like a picture of my driver's license. I know I had a picture of my driver's license. He had a picture of all sorts of different things that I'd given him, like, various sales training things and stuff like that.
And it was, what's amazing is back in the day, you actually had sales materials, right?
Right. And the judge said to him, at one point, he said to him, you're very meticulous about all your documents you've entered into the record, but you keep claiming you've worked all these hours. How come you don't have a list of the days and the hours that you worked in each day? And he said nothing. He had no answer to that. And I thought to myself, great question. I should ask that.
That says a lot.
Right.
And the official record says, the court also finds in favor of defendant KSLQ as to that issue.
Right.
Being about commissions. Although defendant Hildebrand made a number of disingenuous and evasive statements during the trial, the court was not convinced that defendant Hildebrand defrauded plaintiff Colony in negotiating this employment agreement. So there you go, Brad. Even though you made a number of disingenuous and evasive statements, you did not defraud plaintiff Colony.
Because his attorney, when he put me on the stand, was being a butthead.
What if somebody's being a butthead, then you can evade their question. Everybody knows that, Brad. And here comes, you know what? I think it's Matt Thornhill. It's actually Justin Colony calling from Advanced Beauty College. His sister wants to know if you'll sign another contract.
See, my claim to fame is, you've read it right off the court document. My claim to fame is that
it's being disingenuous and evasive.
Yes.
And it's amazing they don't use the word butthead in the court summary.
And I can remember. But see, the crazy thing about it was that this was a bench trial, so he didn't give the verdict right away. And so a couple weeks went by, and I didn't hear anything. So I called him one day. This is the end of the story. I called him one day.
And him is Thornhill.
Thornhill. I called Judge Thornhill. And he was very nice to me on the phone. And he says, you do know I'm not supposed to talk to you. I go, yeah, I know that. And he says, and you still called me? I go, yes, because I want to know what happened. And he says, the judgment, he says, my verdict will be posted tomorrow, and he says, I think you'll be mostly happy. He said, I remember that, mostly happy, because I won the case, but he essentially dinged me for being evasive and disingenuous.
Yeah. And you know what? That's a top contender now of being on your tombstone in the next few months, Brad. You're going to make it through the holidays, and then January is going to be your doomsday. Brad, the only part of the story that you left out is that after the ruling was posted, you gave Thornhill a hockey puck signed by Michael Strahan. And it turns out it was in your own handwriting, but he never knew.
And every once in a while, when I would run into him somewhere, and I go, hey, Judge Thornhill, and he remember me. Oh, Brad, how you doing? Everything going okay for you? How's the radio station going?
That's, boy, if that's not a Brad Hildebrand story, I don't know what is.
You've never heard that one before, have you, John?
Hey, the great thing, and when we come back, we'll have 5 minutes for C-Block.
Who needs C-Block after that, right? Okay.
Yeah, I love it, Brad.
Okay.